This meeting is being recorded.
Excuse me, who started recording? Okay, Andrew Williams. All right. We usually give a few minutes here to get organized. Okay. But Andrew is going to kick us off right away. All right. So, all righty. My name is Herschel Daniels, and this is the 6th day of Kwanzaa and the Kwanzaa Accords review. And it's appropriate that Andrew kicked us off because we started in 2012 and picked it up in 2013 with the Kwanzaa Accords, and we call it the Kwanzaa Accords Review, where we go back over what we've done in the past year and what is in the upcoming year. And so we're still working on that document. Okay.
Recording in progress.
And so I am going to go ahead and start now. I see Queen Mother Bernice Atchison is here. And so we are going to wrap up this year as we transition into next year when we are moving forward, doing what we said we would do, and that we are not just the Christian, we're not just the Jewish, we're not just the Islamic, we're not just the Abrahamic, but on February 4th, okay, we're moving to February 4th when we're working all together to bring all to the table through the United Nations. We are bringing interfaith harmony for those who can work within the context of the February 4th and the Document of Human Fraternity. Okay, and we'll have a little bit more discussion around that again. But we are now going to open up with today Bernice Atchison, but we're going to close today with the interfaith harmony as brought to the work. We're going to ask Hafiz Ladani to talk about the whole idea of interfaith harmony as we get ready for 2024 to bring it to the table. So Bernice, if you would.
I'm here. Tracy Johnson is saying right now, when you bring in our show.
All right.
Stop the ears.
Floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. We'd like to say good morning to everyone. And as we come before the throne of God, may we clear our minds and bow our heads. Father God, as we assemble today to do your will, we bow before thee, thanking you for all that you've done for us, for leading us for caring for us, for directing us, allowing us to work together in unity, even though we don't always agree. We still are able to assemble ourselves in your name and continue the work that you have predestined and preordained. We bow today, Lord, because we have a mother and a daughter both who passed yesterday at the same time. We don't understand, but we realize that you are working your will. And in time, you will reveal unto us what we may need to know. Our hope and our trust lie in thee. We must eradicate from the soul all fear and terror of what come towards man out of the future. We must acquire serenity. We must acquire serenity in all feelings and sensation about the future. We must look towards absolute equanimity to everything that may come. And we must think only that whatsoever come is given to us by the world, directed fully of your wisdom and of your knowledge. It is a part of what we must learn in this age. To live out our purpose and pure trust without any security in existing trust. In the event of the present help of the Holy Spirit, pour it out upon us, O Lord, that we may understand what you are doing. Let us seek the awakening from within ourselves every morning and every evening, keeping your hands of mercy over us as we continue to submit to your will, knowing that it is in Jesus' name that we can trust and be fulfilled as we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Queen Mother Bernice Atchison, who is an ennobled Ashanti Queen Mother by Dr. Dolores Blakely, and that she is the presiding Queen Mother of Friends of the African Union. She is both an unherited civil rights leader who has shown in her history standing up for Black farmers. She is a businesswoman, but she's also a grandmother, a mother, a wife, and a woman who has submitted to the U.S. Congress the Black Folks Plan for Black farmers and the 7 tiers within that we're now updating as part of our request to the USDA, and I'll cover that in a few minutes. But first, Ken Granderson. Normally we ask Ken to give us the Black fact of the day from his website. Ken, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
And then could you follow that up by the Kwanzaa piece that you have so people understand what Kwanzaa in the background?
Okay, can I do them in the opposite order?
Sure you can.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no. That's funny. Not funny. Interesting that you mentioned it because I was going to, make sure folks know that on the Black Facts website, and the official greeting for Kwanzaa is Habari Gani, which the call and response, the response traditionally is the Kwanzaa Day being celebrated. So today would be Kumba, creativity. If you go to blackfacts.com, in the main menu under Learn, you can find different video series, and this is our Kwanzaa video series, and I'll just let that run before I share the Black Fact of the Day. So
Ken, we're not seeing
BlackFacts.com celebrates Kwanzaa in Guso South.
you're not seeing it?
No,
it's
we're
the
not.
wrong screen.
Did I share the wrong screen?
Yes.
Apparently.
Okay, then you were looking at. I was about to do some database queries. Uh, so that would be this screen. Yes?
Yes.
We're good.
Okay, all right. Yeah, the physical position and the numbers are swapped out. So I think
BlackFacts.com celebrates Kwanzaa in Guso Saba, a celebration of family, community, and culture. 7 days of Kwanzaa, 7 principles.
Sixth principle, Kumba, creativity, to do always as much as we can, in the way we can, in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. Learn more and watch the Kwanzaa Principles series at www.blackfacts.com.
and you know what? I often say that Kuji Chakalia is my favorite day. Kumba is probably my second favorite because in addition to self-determination, one of my core principles is trying to leave things better than I found them. But the Black Fact of the Day is one that is interesting given your interfaith commentary by the chairman, because it actually taught me about something that I remember going to as a child that many folks will do tonight. And I thought that it had more of a Revelation, Book of Revelation sort of meaning. But tonight, those who go to a well-known staple in the Black community, watch night service. This is what it's really about.
BlackFacts.com presents the Black Fact of the Day for December 31st. Watch Nights, the meetings for Emancipation Proclamation. On the night of December 31st, 1862, enslaved and free African Americans gathered, many in secret, to ring in the new year and await news that the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect. The soon-to-be free slaves stayed awake all night and watched the night turn into a new dawn while waiting for news that the Emancipation Proclamation had been issued, thus making all the slaves legally free. White enslavers feared that religion, which was often used to quell slave resistance, could incite the exact opposite if practiced without observance. Watch night service is rooted in African American religious traditions. During the first watch night, many enslaved African Americans gathered to pray, worship, sing, and dance. Initially meant to welcome emancipation, today the watch night service encourages reflection on the history of slavery and freedom, as well as reflection on the past year.
Here we go. Back.
Learn Black History, teach Black History at blackfacts.com.
And let me say, blackfacts.com is one of our strategic partners that you're going to talk about in terms of education. Okay. And so that's one of the things that we're talking about. And I guess I want to move into that in terms of education. All right. In that we have a systematic change in education that Ken Granderson and his partners have developed organically. And Ken, I know I had, you don't like things being sprung on you.
I did not close things from before, but go on. I can't tell the future, but the world works in patterns. Go on, please.
Okay. He's gotten used to me, folks, about springy things on him. And I actually, we were going to have him do this presentation last night about this game-changing way of learning. Yeah, okay. And while I have you all here, I think it would be a good time to know that when we're going into this in 2025, that we're going into this change, okay? And that in this change, we got to keep in mind what Machiavelli has always said, right? That when we're talking about change, it must be remembered that there is nothing more difficult to plan, more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to manage than the creation of a new system. Well, we are in a serious change of creating a new system. We started to do that to the world at the 7th edition of the U.S. Africa Business Week in 2024 with the commitment to create the Black Folks Plan of Nigeria with our partners, the World Conference of Mayors. Based on July 10th, we gave to Prosper Africa, British Robinson, who is in charge of Prosper Africa, who reports to the Deputy Director for Africa, who reports to the head of the National Security Council, who reports to the president. So in other words, British Robinson is 2 degrees removed from Joe Biden in his executive position of Prosper Africa, which was created in 2018 during the Trump administration. And Prosper Africa oversees not only the Commerce Department, not only the Small Business Administration, but the State Department, the DOD, the Treasury. All right, all these 17 government agencies are overseen from the White House through Prosper Africa. And so what we did at that time, remember, this was July 10th, that we made sure that there was an understanding that we had a Black Folks Plan, and that on July 4th of 2024, that we updated our rights of ownership. And among the way that we're doing those rights of ownership is that you have to educate a people. Because if your people are with you, but they're uneducated, then you have a problem. In America, we have a problem. And so what Marcus Garvey said holds true. A people without knowledge of their past history and origin and culture is like a tree without roots. The United States is in that position. So we will do the history of Black folk from 1619 to 2019 based on the law that President Trump signed on January 8th, 2018, the 400-year African American History Commission Act, HR 1242, that no Republican in 2018, 2017 objected to. And the way we're going to do that is around education. And here I want to turn it over to Ken Granderson to tell you about that education process.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Brother Chairman. I'm going to get ready to share, make sure I share the right screen. And what I would like to present before actually showing the system is giving some context through a brief intro video. And then I'm going to blaze through, probably skip over several slides in a presentation that we did for the Minneapolis School District, because as Brother Chairman says, this is like just a fundamentally different kind of thing, and we're doing it already in quite a few states. And so, this is what we call Diversity Schoolhouse, which is the ed tech version of blackfacts.com. Are you seeing the right screen?
We are. Diversity Schoolhouse is up.
Hey.
Roll with it.
Introducing Diversity Schoolhouse by blackfacts.com. The ultimate educator's resource for Black history, ethnic studies, and cultural achievement. The #1 diversity challenge faced by educators today, finding reliable Black history and cultural content. The problem: outdated textbooks lack true stories of the history, significance, and achievements of members of diverse cultures. The solution: Diversity Schoolhouse. Affordable, innovative, and user-friendly. Diversity Schoolhouse. Connecting history to the present, inspiring students with stories about Black history and the achievements of other diverse cultures. The library includes over 1,200 videos, 20+ focused series, with new updates added regularly. Inspiring through videos that cover historical events, timelines, and iconic figures. Educational and engaging, short videos on a wide range of topics, perfect for today's students to learn and share. Series highlights include Black history heroes, women of color, Latino trailblazers, Caribbean revolutionaries, Native American icons, Asian American visionaries, and more. Empowering youth, reflecting their potential in stories of past and present achievements accomplished by people that look like themselves. Exclusive subscriber benefits, plug-and-play video widgets and teachers portal. The video widgets offer easy integration, display content on school websites and smart boards with a simple line of code. Content updates automatically. The teachers portal, interactive, time-saving tool with access to videos, lesson plans, and playlists. More than just videos, the teachers portal includes talking points, writing prompts, quizzes, activities, and multilingual narrative options. Diversity Schoolhouse, device-friendly, cost-effective, and time-saving for educators. Engaging for students. Diversity Schoolhouse by blackfacts.com. Truly shaping the future of Black history education and ethnic studies. Learn more or subscribe. Visit www.diversityschoolhouse.com.
So that is our
No one
intro
believed it at
video.
first, but now every man wants
Which
one.
is so you can see all kind of interesting stuff that comes after that. But I'm gonna blaze through this because again, this gives more context on what we're doing. So don't worry about that. That video was when we had 1,200. We got over 1,500 videos now. Like I said, this is Minneapolis Public Schools. Blah 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 blah. Yep, talks about our team. This is me, my business partner Dale. We're both tech professionals. We're not educators. Black Facts, we've been doing this before anyone else was. First Black History search engine. We've been keeping it up and going, still doing it, even though we're self-funded, et cetera, et cetera. We are in 14 states right now. These are the states that we're in different school systems. This is some of, we're on the approved vendor list in a few places. This is the new chancellor of Melissa Avalos Ramos, new chancellor of New York City Public Schools, largest school system in the country. Where I don't even have the official culturally relevant practices and ethnic studies documents yet, but we're working on a few more states. The teachers portal, which is what teachers are given that can run on their desktop or whatever, this is what it looks like on a phone. If you look at my video screen, so we help you teach Black history, ethnic studies on any internet connected device. In addition to the videos that you'll see and the questions and activities, there are also courses that we have had real educators put together. And and so this is from later in the week. We didn't get the Arab American studies or women's studies together yet. We're working on those beginning of next year. Asian American studies, yep, that's up and running. Yep, we just did Native American. The way that the courses work is that printouts that the educators get, and this is really important for the teachers, especially teachers who have only heard, say, with Black history of Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, with Latinx history. Oh, I've heard of Cesar Chavez. So we try to help them teach these topics and make it easier for everyone in the classroom. So again, boom, 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 boom. Diversity. I guess I'm blazing through this because I don't want to take up all the time talking about all these things because I know there's a lot to cover. But yeah, you can do searching. So if you want to find out if someone covered, we just do the search. I can show you that. Here are some of the different series that we have. We're adding more all the time. You'll see with these language things, I just yesterday updated our Black History in America series is now in English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. Again, I mentioned before, on all electronic devices. Our videos can play on anyone else's website. So these are screens from Toussaint Louverture Academy up in Mattapan section of Boston, Hillside Public Schools in Jersey. We also do professional development training. This is where the real educators work with folks. And very inexpensive for large schools, $2,000 a year for the entire faculty. I've onboarded as many as like 150 teachers in one school. So it comes down to pennies, fractions of a penny a day. Anyway, so that's the whole thing. In terms of the presentation, again, this is not a sales presentation, so I didn't want to, get into all of that. But
and so let me
sure.
say, folks, that we're driving a BIPOCA alliance. We're driving down two lanes here. We're driving down a Black Folks Plan made local, and we're driving a BIPOCA alliance, where it's Black Folks Plan with indigenous people, people of color, and allied white folk. And so in that work, that the Black Folks Plan that we started in 2013, based on a standard from the International Standards Organization, about how organizations can improve their social responsibility. And now, when this originally was published in 2022, and we put it in the book, we understood that the world said the legacy of enslavement and racial subordination and segregation, and Frantz Fanon's daughter from France came with the working group of experts of people of African descent in 2016 and made this statement. Our solution, as we said in 2022, is a Black folks plan, not only in the book, but also in the work that we did in the United Nations in that year in terms of joint operations with Cash Community Development on May 20th in the United Nations, with the understanding at that time that education is better than incarceration, and that to deal with it, we created a series of partnerships that in 2025 are coming to the table based on this model that was published in my book about the Daniels IDIQ that we're doing now on January 17th. We're meeting with the Cincinnati Public Schools to put this program of action in place based on our work that we did previously on the year of remembrance and return from August 25th, 2019 to August 25th, 2020. And of course, everybody knows that in March of 2020, the whole world changed because of COVID. Well, we're going to talk about how we respond to that, and what Ken just gave to you is our low-hanging fruit in response, that as a platform, it lets the different members of the BIPOCA Alliance now bring to the table their solutions in a unified framework that we're putting in place here in Cincinnati that's driven by our work in Cincinnati with PNC. Now, it's driven by my company and Friends of the African Union. And this work is based on going after these markets right here. And going after these 4 markets, our primary markets, the United States of America, 55 million people of African descent in the United States of America, but also 100 million plus in the PNC footprint with the BIPOCA Global Alliance in America. Remember what BIPOCA stands for. It's driven by a Black folks plan, but it includes an Indigenous peoples plan, people of color, and allied white folk. Now, those allied white folk and those allied people of color and Indigenous people are in support of the member states and people of the African Union and the global African diaspora of 245 million plus the 55 million in the United States, 300 million. So we're talking about half the people in the planet currently is a focus in that work. Now, you got all my information. This is a document that'll be available. I just got awarded the Presidential Volunteer Service Award. They're going to correct the document and give it properly spelling my name. Okay. But I'm a disciple of Booker T. Washington. Not everything, but we reached an agreement with the National Business League, which is his organization now, that we understand there's a few of us, but we understand that leadership is by knowledge and wisdom It's not necessarily by size. And so, in following what Booker T. Washington started in 1900, and in partnership with the current 16th president of the National Business League, that starting in the 123rd and 2023, that Friends of the African Union became a sponsor, along with Prosper Africa, of the Black Business Conference last August, the 124th, featuring the president of Liberia and delegations from 31 African nations. We are part of the launch of the Black Business Enterprise Seal, that is meant to service Black business enterprise development pipeline for business to business, business to consumer. And so our goal in working with the National Business League, by 2030, we will add over 1 million Black majority-owned businesses in the USA. Now, this is a key word, majority-owned. That means 50.1%. That will be, so they will be partnered in some cases with indigenous people as defined in the United States by the Department of the Interior, or globally accepted in the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, people of color, and allied white folk. And so is our intention to grow that, and starting with the first 100 partners at the Just Economy Conference on March 25th, will be in on the Hill. And this conference, Friends of the African Union, is doing this conference based on a model that we've already developed here in Cincinnati to address childhood poverty that's embedded in the local United Way. It's already embedded. There's already infrastructure is embedded in there. What we're doing is that education is our focus on the 17th of January. All right, we're kicking off that Martin Luther King weekend around that. And so our delegation, that when we came to the National Community Reinvestment Coalition's conference, and that we met there and said, we're going to leverage all that NCRC brings to the table. And that in that we're going to take advantage of those member benefits. And we're going to implement under this through the P&C agreement. Okay. And then we're going to take John Taylor's words when he said that he was the president. He's now the president emeritus. But that the work that we did is based on my high school classmate who used to be the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. And that when we had our meeting with the staff of NCRC, and at the dinner in 2024, featuring the late Reverend Thomas, the chairman of the Northeast Ohio Neighborhood Health Services, NEON, our fiscal fiduciary partner as of November 19th, 2024, in a formal agreement, that as I was speaking to John this past year, I let him know that we're a member of the National Black Chamber of Commerce. The Buckeye Black Chamber of Commerce has a plan of action around what was launched on September 2022 at the National Press Club. the National Alliance for Black Business. Under a unified authority, there's an agreement, in fact, with the Department of Commerce and in the international arena, I'm going to ask the international head of the National Black Chamber of Commerce to talk about that. Mr. Anderson, would you inform people of what I'm talking about?
Excuse me, Brother Chairman. So did you want me to end and not do the demo I was going to do?
No, as soon as he finishes that, then I'm going to seg back into you.
Okay.
We have limited time for Mr. Anderson. I want to make sure that he had a chance to speak on this important relationship that is in place with the federal government, not just the Biden administration, with the federal government, and that we got in the National Defense Authorization Act that President Biden signed on December 24th. I want to set the stage and then I'll come back to you. Mr. Anderson.
And Ken, I'll be very brief, and Chairman, I'll be very brief. As many on the call know, that I'm the chair of the International Committee for the National Black Chamber of Commerce, and in partnership with my relationships, we were able to establish a relationship with the International Trade Administration that incorporated the relationships with Prosper Africa, also NBDNA, to leverage the relationship of the National Black Chamber of Commerce and the National Business League and the World Conference of Mayors in its creation of the National Alliance for Black Businesses. And our true goal is to truly be supportive of the initiatives that's going on here. And I do that not only with what I call my philanthropic and professional relationship with the National Black Chamber of Commerce. As you also know, I am the business development partner for the Black Pearl Investment. And as a business development partner, as a broker dealer, we provide capital advisory, asset management, and investment services that we're looking to provide support as well. So in brief, I'm here to use my talents, my time, and my treasure to leverage this initiative so that it can come to fruition and implementation. So I yield back, Chairman.
Thank you. And so the Minority Business Development Agency is now a Department of Commerce agency. It's no longer in the White House and lives at the existence of the president, but rather it is now by law ongoing agency. So that was the MBDA that he was talking about. The other is that the meeting with Prosper Africa was held at Mr. Anderson's behest on July 10th. And so the work that we're doing, understand that when President Trump comes in on January 20th and runs through executive, that Prosper Africa is his to run through executive. And so, again, that's part of what we're teaching people about civics, because people don't understand civics, and consequently, we have the ability, those who do understand civics are in place to tell those who don't have. And so here we are on January 20th. One of the things that you should know about education in the incoming administration is that the woman who is going to be the Secretary of Education is the woman who is the co-manager of the transition from the Biden administration to the Trump administration. She is also the chairwoman of the American Policy Institute that the executive director is going to be the Secretary of Agriculture. The woman who is the chief of staff used to work all together with this close group, and that we, as a nonpartisan organizational effort in July 10th, one of the things that we made sure is that we went to both transition teams to coordinate this work. And so the transition team that obviously on November 5th is the Trump transition team. And so in education, this is what we're talking about. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay, let me screen number 1, share sound. Okay, so, earlier you got some of the big picture, stuff in terms of, how we're trying to change things. Schools, there are about 100 schools across the 14 states we're in right now. This is what we give the teachers access to. We call it our teachers portal, where we've got all of these different playlists of videos. And so this is our Black History in America series that sometimes say it goes from 1619 to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And in addition to the videos, so first of all, obviously there's videos.
.com presents educational series.
The videos are available in multiple languages. You go forward.
La primera vicepresidenta.
How many languages do you have now?
4, English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. We're going to add more, it's just more of a, like when we get to it sort of thing. But in addition to that, these action buttons at the bottom enable educators to teach classes even if they're not already familiar with the subject. So these are writing exercises, like 10 different writing exercises, talking points for the teachers, quizzes that they can give the students, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then what was this? Was classroom activities that they can do. We're working on having 3 different levels for middle school, high school, and primary. The primary is going to take more time because we're a lot of this is made possible through the quote magic of AI, and we're generating like more animation kind of interactions, for the students. The playlists up here, BIPOCA, etc. So we've got, this is our Latinx Trailblazers video series that has, videos on all these different folks. Our Native American Icons series. We also have stories mostly on the emancipation stories of Caribbean revolutionaries, but then there are folks like, Brother Marcus Garvey, folks of Caribbean heritage who are also will show up in this list. If you wanted to find out, well, what do we have on particular people? Got a lot on Marcus Garvey. Everything from, he's in our America series to he is one of our Black Fact of the Day, honorees, et cetera, et cetera. And then as you saw in passing in the video, we got these 20 week lesson plans that will have they have different numbers of videos, like later on, we might only have 1 or 2 that we've created so far. I tell people, be patient with us. We're like a couple of guys, we're self-funded, we're doing the best we can, but we're doing 100% better than anyone else because there's literally nothing else like this out there. We are a single source vendor in New York City's public schools, and we're unique in not just that, but that this is software that is, FUBU, created for us, by us, about us. I created it all. So we own the intellectual property. Elon Musk don't have nothing on this. Because that's how we roll. That's why Kuji Chakalia is my favorite day. So anyway, so this is what we're bringing to the table. Where we're starting off with our content. I'm building the ability to expand, to generate this kind of experience of any of the 800 million videos that are out on YouTube. So we're going to give educators the ability to create their own courses based on videos of high quality that they find. And, this is where we are, as far as handing the power, teaching ourselves. Tell you hang out with Black Facts, you'll learn a lot of good things. This is one of my favorite videos. Like, most people don't know. Now, it wasn't Tom Cruise. This was the real Top Gun. Anyway, let me stop now.
And they did not want to give the credit,
Right.
because they were Black aviators.
Exactly.
Who won the first Top Gun competition. Do you hear me? The first U.S. Air Force Top Gun competition was won by Black aviators. So in that, and everything that we're doing, the way we're going to do this is there's a whole series infrastructure that's in there that we're going to take everything that you saw right there, okay, as the framework, and we're going to bring it into the United Nations Association model, because there's now in the United Nations a permanent forum on people of African descent, no longer just a permanent forum on indigenous issues, but now there's a permanent forum on people of African descent. And so what we're doing is that we're taking our 7 pillars of social justice, which the first one is take care of babies, children, and teens, including when they're in school. Okay. And so we're taking all that, including point number 7 around the Document of Human Fraternity for World Peace and Living Together, which was signed in 2019 by the Catholic Church in the highest seat of Sunni learning. But then it was put into the United Nations on February 4th, which is how we come in to dealing with it in terms of all this as part of the lesson plans that we're talking about to create the interfaith harmony by February 4th. And we're going to do that by creating our first chapter on January 17th as a student chapter in high school in the Cincinnati public schools. Now, in doing this, the unique thing that we have for that is my background relative to in 2021 when they made this move, and we got to give it to these 2 countries that took it, okay, under to walk it through. Understand that it would not have happened if not for Chad and Costa Rica. All right. This is the sister from Chad on the Zoom. This is the brother. Okay. I'm sorry. I mixed them up. She's from Costa Rica. He's from Chad. And that they came together. And I was on that. And what I said on that is that around Executive Order 13985. But that's the history. That's where we went around and talking about the history. And so when we talk about this in our Friends of the African Union BIPOCA alliances, that will know the difference between inequity and inequality, right? The equality, which is what's being preached now in the United States in the incoming administration, says that everybody is an American, everybody should get access equally. Well, the problem with that is, of course, if you're on top, that means that you will always be on top. And if you're on the bottom and poor and don't have access, that means you will always be on the bottom and poor and not have access. We're the latter group to make the access. And now we're not saying to the others, hey, look, we have to do this so that in 2100 that we have a country that by 2050 has addressed the issues, because what we're going to do on our 250th birthday in 2026 is that we're going to have retooled at our public school systems, okay, starting in Cincinnati, that there has been a change, okay, in the United Nations, so that we launched this permanent forum that nobody knows about. 99.9% have no idea. So when we kick this off, and whereas in 2023, that at the United Nations headquarters, what we were able to do as the chairman of the committee from the World Conference of Mayors, we got it into the Defense Authorization Act of 2025 to have a meeting of cities in the African Union and in the United States in 2026. It's in the law. Now, to make it effective, what we're declaring today is to put that in place. And how we do that is, again, we do it because what we submitted to the United Nations Group of Experts on People of African Descent is a plan of action. And that plan of action is based off of this conference. See, this is the conference in 1885 that divided up Africa in the 20th century. This conference is what we, Friends of the African Union, was founded on, because it became American law. See, when he was talking about the education, among the education that students are going to get, all students, okay, in Cincinnati, we're going to demonstrate there's 36,000 students in 66 schools. And so for our low-hanging fruit, what we do is introduce that for all students as our education program for corporate sponsorship, starting with PNC, that we have a community benefit agreement that has philanthropic funding in it. And that we say, look, this is American law. And now in 2025, we plan to use that law, and we're planning to teach that in 1963, the first meeting of the Organization of African Unity went on. But that in 2013, on the 50th anniversary, the leaders of Africa reached out and said, this is our agenda. This is what we are about to create change in the world. Well, we got ready for that, okay, in 2012 at the first U.S. Africa Business Conference. Now, after 12 years worth of work, we're setting a new standard in that relationship by making the Black Folks Plan local. But we are building on work that dates back to 2013, when the U.S. Ambassador to the African Union, Michael Battle, signed an agreement for assistance agreement. And so now, okay, we are able to take advantage of that based on this structure of Friends of the African Union and Herschel Daniels Jr. LLC, and our action arm in the diaspora, African Diaspora Directorate. Now, all this work that you have to understand, that Africa has spent the past decade in a 50-year, 10-year unification plan called Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Okay. We attended the first consultative meeting that was held with the diaspora in New York in the consultation with the African diaspora on the African Union's Agenda 2063 on October 8th through the 10th, 2013 at the African Union Representative Office to the United Nations. Okay. Now I want you to understand that from that conference, when you saw all those people, at the end of the day, these are the people that were left that were doing the work. We had a 10-person delegation, and there, when you see that right now, okay, 5 of those people are from our delegation. Okay, all right. And so in 2015, as chairman of Friends of the African Union, I appointed His Majesty King Joseph Du Bois as Special Ambassador to the people of the African Union in the creation of the African Economic Community. Now, this is W.E. Du Bois's nephew, okay, who was a noble by the Ashanti and the 16 tribes of Liberia. We could not come to an agreement by November 19th in 2015 when ECOSOC held the Global African Stakeholders Diaspora Convention. So consequently, at that convention, the work that we did within ECOSOC, okay, came not to fruition. Well, now, a decade later, the African Union in February will have new leadership. And the African Union Commission, so it's our plan that Friends of the African Union will propose a session to bring together organizations constituting the 4th Permanent General Assembly of ECOSOC in the AU with those in the United States of America, Canada, and Mexico. And that we're going to bring that together around the Agenda 2063 program of action. And in terms of when it launched its second 10-year program around the African Continental Free Trade Area, the African Passport, the DAM, the Single African Air Transportation, Virtual University, Pan-African E-Network, and other strategies, right, in terms of their space strategy. On that latter, okay, we have an answer for them, and that's the work that we are doing, okay, includes the work around the Artemis program and the launch of the Artemis program, okay, with people of African descent. That by tomorrow, this final document will be distributed to everyone so that you understand that this move by the US government is meant to counter the move by China, which has its own space station, folks. Has 2 years, its own space station, not the International Space Station. They have their own space station, and that they have their own plan to launch and to conquer the moon on the South Moon port, which minerals we think are there. So what we're doing is we are planning to work with Boeing through the Black Folks Plan of South Carolina and putting together this program of action. And to make that happen, we're creating a private military security company that will be platform agnostic. And that in being platform agnostic, that we will serve under the name of General Charles Young. And General Young, okay, is the first Black American general. Okay, and that happened in 2021 when the Secretary of the Army did and issued a proclamation that said that Charles Young was a soldier, an intellectual, a civil rights pioneer, and a man who loved his family deeply. And when I think of Charles Young, the word triumph comes to mind. He faced unjust and harrowing circumstances that tested him time and time again, but he triumphed. Okay. And so with that, we're going to be teaching his history so people understand that we never forgot Africa. Okay. Starting in 1832, organized in Philadelphia, we had grand balls that never forgot Africa. When Ken was talking about watch night, we'll be teaching the history of watch night and what the Emancipation Proclamation politically was President Lincoln's last gasp to keep the Union together, because preceding the Emancipation Proclamation, he freed the slaves in Washington, D.C., and paid their masters the money for them. They didn't pay the slaves, he paid the masters the money for them as an example that he could use for the Emancipation Proclamation for those who were in rebellion to return to the Union, that they could keep their slaves. They could keep slavery, just like Maryland was in the Union and had slavery. That was legal. And he was trying to keep the Union together. And so when our ancestors who understood the politics of that was watching to make sure that that night came about, that no Southern state in rebellion accepted the offer. And so when they didn't, it only freed slaves in the states that were in rebellion. So we have to understand the history and the facts and understand the facts. And so that's why facts matter. That's why we're with Ken Granderson and his organization. As he said, he has ownership organically. Okay. He doesn't have to go to somebody for a license. Rather, he owns it. Okay. We have to go to him and his partner to cut the deal. I'll stop there and take any questions. We've been at it for about an hour. Okay. And so let's have any questions. Raise your hand.
Chairman, I don't have a question, but I would like to thank Mr. Ken Granderson for the cultural education that he is putting forth, that we are learning from now, even though some of us may not realize that. This is a great way for us to learn about cultural education as he continued to bring forth the Black lives, the history and the playlists and all of this that are going to be presented in our schools is going to be another instrument that will teach our children about their past and where they come from. And they won't have to go out wondering, who am I? I'm a nobody. Are you a nobody too?
And the great thing about it, you'll see in Cincinnati, we're also going to do families. And so in 2100, your family could know what you and your husband went through in raising up, okay, your family in the 20th century. Okay. And so in the 21st century, that the family then will know what it is, their history that came from. So, starting with Ken and me, and starting in with those 100, okay, with the Cincinnati Public Schools. Like I said, we're going to bring 1,000 of you partners together to do Cincinnati with the goal of the first 100 by March 25th of 2025. Okay. So I see Andrew Williams has his hand up. Andrew, questions?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Ken Granderson. I want to thank you so much. First of all, Daniel, this is as much a statement as it is a question. First, I'd like for you to connect Mr. Granderson with Alicia Hamilton. She's rolling out now on the New World Network, NWN.TV, a global classroom. And I believe there's synergy and also,
Andrew,
yes.
Andrew, we're committed to another platform. I talked to Alicia to try and do that, but we're committed now to another platform.
Okay, well, thank you very much. But Ken Granderson, I've been a subscriber for quite some time. Thank you so much for everything you do, and let me know however I can help you. Thank you.
So let me say, in terms of Andrew Williams Jr., that one of the things that Andrew has been with me from the beginning of what we've been doing, okay, here. And in terms of that work, Andrew Williams, we like to kid around ourselves about the juniors, but that as the CEO of a trading company in California, as doing business as the Andrew Networks, and the work that he put together that brought us with the Unity Network, okay, that he was one of the representatives in the early version that we put together in terms of from 2020 and previous to that, okay, in the FAU Bermuda Bureau, which was the second fully developed FAU North American Regional Economic Cluster. Okay, unfortunately, we know about people taking our work and trying to say that they could do it. Okay, and this time around on work that we're doing. Okay, from the work that we did in the United Nations together. Okay, and moving forward on the permanent form on indigenous issues. Okay, that with Mayor Ford and working with that. Okay, that we understand that the 70 million indigenous peoples of the Americas is just a touch. It is easily more than that. But we also understand that in the waning days of the Biden administration, that what we're doing in creating the Indigenous Peoples Alliance that was created out of our work at the United Nations in 2021 with the Samoan people, and the work that they did in incorporating the Indigenous Peoples Alliance of America. All right, that we are bringing this back forth tomorrow with our partner, Cash Community Development, that we created this work with Cash, okay, around the whole idea that no one is born hating another person because of the color of their skin or his background or his religion or her religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Okay. And Andrew?
Yes, thank you. Before I move on, in the spirit of Kwanzaa, I do want to revisit the fact that in 2012, 2013, it was the Friends of the African Union that was the second signatory after the Congress of the African People to the Kwanzaa Accord. That was intended to align the people in the African diaspora with the African Union's Agenda 2063, but our approach was to take 7 cycles of 7 days for 7 years to align ourselves with the African Union Agenda 2063. So we committed the first 7 years, 2013 to 2020, for Umoja. But Ken Granderson, we're now in Kujichagulia. And so I just want to acknowledge Corin Smith and his work in Bermuda to align our philosophical aims with our economic aims. Thank you.
So, as he said, we adopted these accords with the understanding that FAU's operating principles are additional audit standards that we will use. And so what we did when we did that adaptation, the Kwanzaa Accords of 2013 and 2020, is that we added and called it the Kwanzaa Accords Review. Okay, FAU Kwanzaa Accords Review. And that work with the Congress of African Peoples then, was based on the Cincinnati Child Poverty Collaborative of 2016. And so now what we're doing is through BIPOCA alliances in a 7-point strategy and community reinvestment coalition anchor organizations, such as in Cincinnati, Hamilton County, and Congressional District OH1, is founded on a community-wide childhood support system with universal preschool and a public-private partnership that supports local businesses, that supports a superset of ISO 26000, that creates a unified community infrastructure. So that all this is part of our implementation plan for BIPOCA alliances, in terms of that. And in terms of making that happen, we said during Kwanzaa, all right, and during the Kwanzaa Accord review, all right, that we started, as I said before, with the Reverend Dr. Albert Sampson. You heard what I said about Nelson Mandela. And in this Kwanzaa, we did, from the Unity Day in terms of Boxing Day and launching the BIPOCA Alliance, the global initiative of that and unity with that. And in terms of our determination to name and create for ourselves and speak for ourselves, that's where we proposed the Black Folks Plan as a global initiative, within the context for the first time, putting on the table a United States Compact for Democracy with a Just Economy as a collective work and responsibility. And yes, we said cooperative economics, because what we're saying is African in the 20th century, we define African socialism. In the 21st century, we're defining African capitalism, that with a purpose of leaving no one behind. That's a creative expression to do all that we can do. And we're doing it on a unique basis, in terms of the work that we're doing is based on a launch on January 20th that meets the requirements that Martin Luther King had said when he was with late Harry Belafonte. Belafonte, Ambassador Young, and the others of the civil rights movement were taking a break at Harry Belafonte's home when Belafonte realized that in the midst of the civil rights movement, that Martin Luther King realized that the struggle for integration would ultimately become a struggle for economic rights. And so that's the last time that they were all relaxing at Belafonte's home. Belafonte said that King seemed agitated and preoccupied, and he asked him, "What's going on? What was the problem?" According to Belafonte, King responded, "I've come upon something that disturbs me deeply. We have fought hard and long for integration, as I believe we should have, and I know we will win, but I've come to believe that we are integrating in a burning house." So many people use that to say, we should get out of the house. We should go back to Africa, where we come from, and that, et cetera, et cetera. Ours is a more nuanced response, because when he says, "I fear we are integrating my people into a burning house," what most people don't talk about is when Belafonte asked King what we should do, and King replied, "Well, we should become the firemen." And so on January 20th, as a member of the Martin Luther King Coalition of Cincinnati in its 50th year celebration and the birthday of Friends of the African Union, I plan to announce at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are the firemen for that burning house. We are America's firemen, because words have power, and that not only for America, but that we have a plan of action on a 75-year solution, not only for the United States of America, but for the African Union. And we know how to reach out to corporate America. And we're going to show you from Cincinnati. Brother Jamal, I see your hand.
Thanks, Herschel, and thank you, everybody. This is incredible to be a part of, and to sneak in still in 2024 on the last day. Although Mr. Daniels,
tell people where you come from first. What?
Okay, for sure. So my name is Rahman Jamal. I represent a nonprofit organization called Hip Hop Congress. It's been around for about 30 years, over 30 years now. Founded in '93 in California. I'm currently in the Bay Area, California, San Francisco area. But we've been doing this work within the global hip hop community for a long time. And we have, excuse me, we've done the long grassroots process of going from individual artists to connecting to each other to try to share resources, and then see ourselves as cultural workers and educators, and establishing a hip hop education field, which is much more developed. We're creating national standards for hip hop music to be taught in schools, and hip hop represents for us. It's defined against the hip hop industry, which is its own problematic thing. But the culture being one that's rooted in youth creativity and resilience against oppressive forces, and one that is global in nature, and a unifier across language and everything. It's excuse me. So we are in the process of, well, we have chapters all over the world as well, across the United States, and then also in places like Nairobi, Kenya. We have organizers in South Africa, and a lot of these people that are organizers in their respective countries are pioneers in their respect to their local areas as community organizers, youth organizers. And so we're a unique network that Lisa was able to connect with Friends of the African Union. We have some mutual connections with Amar Mansour down in Bahia, Brazil, who's already family friends with Mr. Daniels. So it's a great synergy. My question, I guess, is twofold. So one, as far as what we can do to support the publicity of this, you had mentioned sort of the fight the fire update of fight the power. I like that.
Yeah. That's going to be our call for January 20th to have an online fight. Okay, the fire. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing with the hip hop. What you have to do is tell people the difference between the hip hop industry and the 5 founding principles of hip hop. People don't know
Sure.
that there are principles that
Yeah,
have
yeah.
been in violation.
I'll give my understanding of it. You know, it's a lot of a lot. There's so you have hip hop culture, which was basically the response of youth to the federal urban renewal that hit every major city in the 1950s, and you know, and then failed, particularly in the South Bronx. The youth response there was youth basically taking back their space and creating creative alternatives to the destruction that was all around them. And the same thing happened simultaneously, actually, on the West Coast. Wasn't as documented, but there was a competitive dance culture, roboting and shredding. It was more rooted in the Black Power movement on the West Coast, so they weren't as eager to share their culture in mainstream or white spaces. So it didn't get the industry recognition that New York's culture, which they called hip hop, got. But when that did happen, that merger of industry hip hop artists came, you know, that's when the rest of the world discovered hip hop as a force. But of course, it also split the culture in two. So you had those that were essentially pursuit to get out of poverty, but that was colored by the corrupt practices of record executives like Clive Davis. But also just a general shift towards more of an entertainment, you know, capitalism using hip hop's value as entertainment to make its own money for certain groups of people and kind of redirect the profit that, you know, hip hop became $1 billion industry, but it's much of that profit does not go back to the community that creates it. So you have the community that's been, you know, there the entire time, but outside of the spotlight, oftentimes speaking on topics that go against the hegemonic, you know, agenda of United States. But it created, especially in the 80s, a very conscious that kind of got drugs and all of this. But what we know is that hip hop has the power to basically be the news of the world. You know, Chuck D said it best: hip hop is the CNN of the streets. And so we're an organization that was created as an alternative to the industry because for so many artists, that's the only lane that you're really given is, you know, if you have talent, you have to go into entertainment. And one of our partners started the first hip hop education archive association. Her name is Martha Diaz, and she spoke to us early on in our organizing years, and I believe it was like 2004, about the power of not just seeing our talent and storytelling and dance and music making as a form of entertainment, but as a form of education. And so with that, we've developed this field that basically integrates arts back into the school setting. And a lot of us are pioneers in that, right? Of taking, for example, just one example, taking the art form of rap, which is basically applying musical and teaching how to apply that at different paces, using whatever material is available to give students a more interactive experience in their brain that's using, right and left, creative, creative thinking to enhance the experience of school in the classroom. That's just one example of re-engaging students into the learning process that's been tested at all levels of education. It's been tested in incarcerated spaces for kids who are kind of furthest from the school structure, school system. And so that kind of leads into my other question too, is, how can we, or what is the plan for kind of picking up the challenge of dealing with our folks who are incarcerated. Right now, kind of calls to mind kind of the work of George Jackson and the importance of folks who have had the prison system used against them as a weapon to separate them from community. How do we bridge those gaps? We know that hip hop and music is a bridge to that because it's a cultural language. However, there's a lot of challenges in the sort of the mental the mental state of being locked up, having to deal with the abuse and the trauma in incarcerated spaces. So
All right,
I'm curious about that.
Let me answer your question. Okay. First, in FAU is the ability to create chapters in prison. Okay. All right. So we actually have started that here in Ohio. Okay. And you'll hear more about it on January 20th. But yes, so first, chapters in prison, yes. But more importantly, program implementation here in Ohio in prisons of program of economic development that begets social enlightenment. Okay, so the underlying is that the economics you're locked in, and so now there's a program of Black economic empowerment that we can do. There's a program of BIPOCA economic empowerment that we can do with you. Okay, because for the pennies on the dollar that you're working there, we can say that when you come out, if you're trained on that, you could be earning good money in certain fields that you can get trained in where you're at. Okay, just the reality. So we actually started on that program several years ago. COVID hit. I had medical problems, et cetera. We scaled it back, but we're now going to be able to put that in place in the Cincinnati public schools for those children whose parents are incarcerated, that we have a infrastructure here in Ohio that lets us do that, because we're not trying to be everything to everybody. We partner with programs that are already in place that do that. And the key is to get the best of the class to bring together, to put together here. So we'll have an offline conversation on that. But again, our Petri dish is the 36,000 students in the Cincinnati public schools that in that program, we are saying to them, and that they've accepted, the board has directed the superintendent to negotiate. They've assembled a team that's meeting with us on the 17th of January, that we're going to make our presentation the best of class with those who are on the call who have something to contribute to the Cincinnati public schools. I mean, I'm waiting for you. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. And I definitely want to get some of the organizers that are closer into Cincinnati connected as well. Yeah, there's just a lot of different creative ideas that that we can bring to the table. Another thing that I was wondering about too, and I'll just, you don't have to have an answer to this, but I just wanted to put it out there to this group. But in film, there's this concept of first cinema, second cinema, and third cinema, which is basically you can kind of roughly associate it to like first world, second world, and third world. But what it actually means is like first cinema is kind of like the Hollywood genre that doesn't ever challenge notions. It's just purely entertainment. Second cinema is really the vision of the auteur or the director, and kind of more of a subjective view of the world. And then third cinema is more of your guerrilla, revolutionary, challenging the status quo type of film, which often doesn't get the distribution of the Hollywood films and everything. So it's very much more grassroots and guerrilla style. But I'm curious if you have anybody talking about utilizing the available resources for these projects, film projects, which
we're creating a school of the
Mm-hmm.
arts. Okay, we have over 1,000 students who can't get into the current school of the arts in the Cincinnati Public School. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're creating a school of the arts for that. And the man who's in charge of the difference is going to be that it's going to be also the technology of the arts. Okay, so I used to be a thespian in high school, recording engineer, and all that stuff, and et cetera. So we're going to create a full sail infrastructure, okay, for the kids here. And multimedia advertising and marketing is our name relative to that area. Arthur Funk, who's right here with us listening to this. We've been working toward that for a couple years now. He's been the videographer who has worked with us on documenting this movement. Okay, and so we have for the young people, we probably have about 300, maybe 400 hours of video that is professionally shot. And we have thousands of hours of Zoom, okay, that led us to here that the young people will be able to do that. We're a little bit different in that the channels that we're promoting economic development, and that is supports social enlightenment. So they get to do all that. Cincinnati is one of those cities that actually has public access video studio still in operation. Okay, and so they will get to do all that. I'll make all that available to you so that you understand the infrastructure that we have to build on.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, so I see a couple of hands. I thought two. Okay, Lisa, you're next. I see your hands up.
Thank you very much. I wanted to add a few things to what Rahman had said. In 1997, I watched as ballroom dance sport, which had been proposed as a new sport in the Olympic Games, went through a process that actually tore their culture in two. They call it the Great Fracture. And this was done through the WDSF, World Dance Sport Federation, which is actually a subsidiary of the Russian Federation. I'd watched the Russians do this with two other dance cultures afterward. Not quite so prolonged, but I was the official that they called into a foreign nation to speak with the IOC about their proposal to make breakdancing an Olympic sport. I told them that I had watched this process and that hip hop is the largest culture being practiced on the planet, and that to take a dance away from the culture that feeds it is genocide. I ran across Rahman Jamal when a young man out of Sri Lanka, very talented articulation dancer, came forward to ask about trying to get over here to make a video with a couple of hip hop artists who had made that offer. Of course, not being familiar with how Sri Lanka works governmentally, we tried very well, but in the process, I saw what Hip Hop Congress was doing, and I was like, you already have a global reach. Why are you calling yourself just Hip Hop Congress? You should be the International Hip Hop Congress. And we started talking. They opened up the Clubhouse page, and discussions began on how this could occur. And then as more people started coming in, suddenly I got connected through Andrew Williams here to UnityNet International, who, after speaking with me and asking me to share with them all the connections I'd made, one of which was an effort to get at least dance culture as an added into the public schools in the United States. Well, he got me connected to UnityNet International. Now I'm their global outreach director. This means coming into contact with cultures of all kinds, as well as many, many, many dance forms, and the devastation that has occurred through the raping of the lands for natural resources by corporate raiders, as I like to call them. But one thing I did want to say about the what it is you're working in Cincinnati. In 2018, the Board of Education and the YMCA, after my spending 14 years inside a federal facility designing programs at government request, finally agreed to allow dance programs into after school across the United States. We do have a page on my website, danceandfitnessconcepts.org, that lists those 3 programs that the Board of Education approved for after school in collaboration with the school districts on one, with the performing arts institutions and the NEA on 2, and thirdly for those who have competitive aspirations as well. And I wanted to put that out there because I believe that that's a resource that we can use in many communities to start to reintroduce the most important thing that I actually feel, cultural education, which unifies diverse peoples in ways nothing else can. It is how we can start to bring back that realization that what culture is identity. It's how we've resolved every single issue that we have as human beings, every need, every desire, given the tools we have at hand. So moving all that forward, if anybody has questions, feel free. I'm easy to contact. In fact, I'll put my contact information in the chat before I have to leave and go and teach, which is in about 20 minutes. So I had to put that out there. Thank you, Rahman, for opening that door. I appreciate it very much.
So one of the things that we have as an advantage in 2028 in Los Angeles, will be the next iteration of dancing in the United Nations. But 2030 is that we have the ability to create a global Black sports network for competition for the 1.6 billion people of African descent. Stay tuned, for that. We are at the end. I see no other additional hands raised or any questions to be answered. Okay. I want to thank you for your time because I know it's valuable and you don't get to redo it again. Everybody, give me your email. If I don't have your email, give me your email so that you will get the written document that will be produced for the final report and give you our plan of action for 2025. from Haiti. I see, Reverend, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you so much.
I didn't see that you were here. Okay.
Yes, I was a little late, but I came anyhow. Been connected a while, so I'm very pleased to be part of this great movement of people of African descent. And thank you very much for inviting me. At the light of what took place in Springfield, Ohio, is where I met you, and ever since we have been on this journey together. And I believe the Lord and our willingness will lead us to this into fruition in the nearest future. So my name is Reverend Mademilobe, Haitian by birth. I'm living in Springfield for the past 2 years, almost 3 years now. And based on what took place in Springfield, I've been inspired and expand my ministry to the community. Seeing the Haitian people who have been here and in the distress and problem of language and communication and driving, that was a lot of issues. And I formed this organization, Haitian Community and Support, Haitian Community Solidarity and Support. And we have our website, which is www.haitiancss.org. If you click on that website, you will see our goal or vision or mission to the Haitian community as well as other immigrants, and what we offer as we offer English class for the Haitian who don't speak English. We will offer Haitian Creole language for locals who wish to interact better with us. We'll offer driving lessons. We have been helping with food and financial assistance because there are a lot of people who are here based on the language barrier which they have been here not being able to work. So my church, my DS, has been very supportive to this endeavor, and as we are on this platform, presenting this project to you and appealing to see how you can help us get some funds to meet these needs. And my aim is that it would be an organization without border, without a wall, because it's reaching out to people, impacting people's life positively, help people in distress, living first of all here in Ohio, and then take it to other states, because wherever you are, you have immigrants living, not only Haitians, but from other countries. So we have our platform for donations, and our email address and telephone number is there. So I'm inviting you to check the website, and kindly guide us through. And we are praying that your input will bring a resounding result, impacting life in Springfield.
Appreciate it. And I did talk to Dr. McLeod on Sunday about how we work with Dr. John Ahmad, who's here, and yourself first to set the record straight on Haiti. Okay. And the work that FAU has done over the past 2 years leading us to that. Okay. So my idea is that over the next 2 weeks that we get that straight on what we agreed to do in the incoming administration. Okay, because there's a lot of controversy around the incoming administration. But from Ohio, we've had discussions with the Ohio delegation, and that they are supportive of President Biden's extension of TPS status, but that's it. Okay. And so we must be prepared to take responsibility. Now, I have, as we are both members in the same church, what I have proposed was the African Caucus Uniting Methodist Churches and the 7 pillars of social justice, to bring them together. And so I'm going to push that here in Cincinnati, where with our new bishop, okay, and pushing that, in particular here in Ohio for Haiti, for immigrants, specifically for Haitian immigrants as our special focus. Okay, so I've actually contacted the general board in our church to bring them on board because of what we're doing as an interfaith harmony. Okay, so our church has that United Nations infrastructure I told you about. Okay, and so I'm looking to bring that local, to bring the demonstration here local. Okay, and so I will give you the document that has this in it tomorrow. You take a look at it, then let's have a discussion on it. Let me say this for folks, that when I said that we could be the world's firemen, Haiti's on fire right now. Okay. And I've learned in the past several months how important Haiti was to the history of the United States in its birth in 1776. And so in Cincinnati, I can say specifically that in Ohio, in Cincinnati, that we're going to bring that history forward. And in bringing that history forward, I think that we will get a lot of support because people don't know.
Yes.
And if you don't know something and somebody says the opposite, and if you don't know and nobody's saying counter what's being said, you'll take what they said as the truth. We met because the mayor of the city of Springfield asked for help, and the World Conference of Mayors committee members, Dr. John Ahmad and myself on Haiti, he's the committee chair, we responded. We came. We wanted to find out what the truth is, what was going on. And what we found out is that the employers in Springfield knew the program of action around bringing foreigners to the United States so that they could work in their factories, and that those employees were better employees than the American citizens in the city, and that because the young people in Springfield were leaving. And these factories didn't have employees and were either going to have to close or move. Well, but that wasn't the story that was told. And so we now know the reality. And so now we have to talk about it. And I want people to understand that one of the things that that the MAGA community is finding is that when President Trump made a choice, I want you to understand that when President Trump on January 20th becomes the 47th president, that he'll become a lame duck because he doesn't have to run again. And so now he can say that back in June, he said, hey, look, we need these foreigners to come in and for these jobs. And if they go to college and they graduate and et cetera, they should be given a green card that they should have, be able to stay in the country. That includes junior colleges today. Okay. And so this great fight that he's having now is part of the fight that on January 20th, that things are going to be put in place within the context of the administration that could be quite beneficial to people of African descent, because we have a plan here. And that if he holds true that saying his central campaign promise to put the interests of American people first, both at home and abroad, in this case, American citizens of African descent who have a plan. Now, people say, well, he's not going to do that. He's not. I point to you about this issue with Musk and crew about immigrants. He's transactional, folks. See, I was there in 2018 when he cut the transactional deal in 2019 to move $5 billion to the African Development Bank based on a transaction that you didn't hear about on the street, because that wasn't the narrative that had been sent since 2017 about his comment on shithole countries. It's not about what he says out of his mouth or what he tweets, but what's the policy that he implements? Well, the implementation of the policy is based on the law and action by executive action. So if we could propose a plan that's been made local that can be replicated, it's our contention that no matter what happens at the federal level, we can do it at the state level. We can do it at the local level. Because the markets only care about what they are making, and that in terms of how we are proposing this, is that for the next 75 years, that we're saying, you get yours, we get ours, we take responsibility for ours, you take your profits and you run with it. The reason that we can say that is that we've already put in place for years this work around the mending goals that we agreed to put in place for the SDGs, which people are worried about. Well, we put together in the mending goals 9 goal areas that, based off of the work that we did for the Daniels IDIQ, that the joint venture public-private partnerships that we're talking about, like in Springfield, okay, that with your organization, that we will include in works like this.
Okay.
All right, that for that, but right now we're concentrated on showing what we can do in Cincinnati, because we have a public partner already. We have the Hamilton County Developmental Disability Services Agency is our public partner for people with disabilities, which includes 7,000 students in the Cincinnati public schools, which may only include 10 to maybe 50 Haitian students who are having problems because they don't speak English. So they get an IEP, but et cetera. But the whole idea is that to actualize our interfaith alliance here, okay, and to take advantage of what we know is going on, and in terms of, for the first time at the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, for the first time, Black folk has a proposal for the globe for financing, okay, that becomes a win-win situation for the United States, because as President Trump is going around threatening everybody, there's the threat, and what's the carrot? Well, we set in the first meeting of the first session on the permanent forum in Geneva in 2022, we put on the table the then now carrot, the United States Compact for Democracy with a Just Economy, now made local to the city of Cincinnati. Everybody pile on with their solution in their wheelhouse to make it better here and then take it back home. All right. So that's how our mode of operations. And
No, I love the whole call, and I'm just honored to listen in. Excited to possibly contribute on a deeper level. Are you working with Chris Collins with Hope for Housing or Dwight already? I just met Lloyd and a couple of others earlier this week.
we're our own architect engineering firm, and so we'll have that discussion. Like you, Ken is a MIT man. At MIT, we ran the Occupy Wall Street out of MIT is the repository structure. So I've actually not interfaced with MIT for 12 years until I got together with Ken, who's an MIT man, okay, like you.
I'm kind of a weird, my background's engineering, but I went for a master's of science in innovation and venture development, and I'm a lean consultant for quite a number of technologies and social impact partners. But specifically, we have some really strong housing solutions that are rated Category 5.
Discussion. So we need to have that discussion because we introduced a net zero protocol in COP28 based on the work that we're in at the UAE, and then we followed it up at Aberdeen. So now, as we head to Brazil for 30, we're implementing it as a demonstration in Hamilton County in 50,000 households. Okay, and so as a retrofit. So let's have that discussion offline. I got your information.
Yeah.
And let's have that.
Are you interested in possibly stacking other IDIQs? Because we have one with an EPA that, honestly, it might just be another funding source for you guys.
Yeah, it's open to everything. We're an open source. Right now, what we're doing is leveraging the PNC agreement that we have right now. So out of that $88 billion agreement, there's about 29 billion left in it. Okay, and so we said last year we were going to take the leadership in it, and I spoke. This year I spoke more optimistically about my health than it is. Okay, so I put it in the chat right now for take a look at that. That's a tool that we have right now.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
All right. And I thought I saw Hafiz had his hand up. Did we lose Hafiz?
No, I'm here. Okay. I'm just waiting for you to wrap up, sir.
All right. Go ahead, Hafiz. The floor is yours.
Okay, excellent. Herschel spoke earlier, not for the first time, about the document on human fraternity. I'd like to focus on interfaith harmony. There's some things that we have to consider apart from the religious aspect. There's barriers, boundaries, and borders, not only politically and geographically, but also culturally, economically, and in religious circles. So we should strive, as the Aga Khan said a few years ago, to create or maintain what is known as the sacred, frontierless brotherhood of man. Now, if we were to do that today, we would be able to use an organization that I shelved in 2018 called planetdiplomat.com, which at this time is an inactive organization ready for consultative status application.
I lost your sound, Hafiz.
Pardon, sorry, go ahead, Andrew. I know you're familiar with Planet Diplomat. You've been seeing me on Facebook with it for years, but what did you just say? I missed that. Andrew?
Yeah, I'm here. I couldn't hear you, Hafiz, but I hear you now.
Oh, okay. I think I had my finger covering the mic. My apology.
No, we can
Okay.
hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. PlanetDiplomat.com is registered as a profile and has inactive status. I've turned it over to Herschel, so on the next cycle we can apply for consultative status. We're in the process of updating the profile with Herschel, and the section on the Office of the Special Advisor to Africa now has an FAU section, and a 3-paragraph brief is being written and added. Now, apart from Africa, through the BIPOCA alliances, which now has a home at Planet Diplomat run by Herschel, we can expand across the world. There will be an elite organization of volunteers that Samantha Collins has a special script and mobile app coming within the next 90 days. As soon as we can get funding, we can reduce that timeline down to 6 weeks. But it's basically a combination of Slack with LinkedIn features for NGOs to have their own social network that can connect them to volunteers and donations, as well as funding sources, as well as work together with the capabilities of a Slack platform. So on this platform, which will be called Global Crew, let's see, the document, there we go, the Document of Human Fraternity for World Peace and Living Together, also known as the Abu Dhabi Declaration. So everybody please check that out. And right after you're done reading that, you'll notice the name Al-Azhar was stated. The Pope and the Sunni Imam who is associated with Al-Azhar University. Al-Azhar University was founded many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, by the Aga Khan's family, and they are still here today representing that movement. And so their leadership has signed with the Pope this document on human fraternity. And what we want to do, I'm one of the Smiley volunteers. And in Canada, one of the things we're proud of is we teamed up with volunteers across Canada to do something called Civic 150 on the 150th anniversary in Canada. And we donated 1 million hours of volunteer service, time and energy, wisdom and social service. So this was tracked, carefully monitored. I myself went to Edmonton. I was working at Habitat for Humanity at the time when President Jimmy Carter was building a house here in Edmonton. And he was so dedicated. He worked so hard, lifting so many concrete blocks. He needed water. And that wasn't enough. And they decided to be safe and take him to the hospital. But he got released, in half an hour or an hour. But there we go. We must explore every opportunity to have different faiths come together in addressing the problems. Herschel just put that in chat. You guys can follow that up. And also make sure that you Google the term frontierless brotherhood. So the brotherhood script, which is what Samantha is working on perfecting now, will be a way for us to take our volunteer organizations, which a lot of them have a hierarchy, just like the Ismaili Volunteer Organization, the Ismaili Volunteer Corps, IVC, which is all across the world. So Andrew Williams is saying he's here. Okay, great. So Frontierless Brotherhood, Interfaith Harmony, and of course, the Document on Human Fraternity. Yes, Andrew, we can definitely talk today. That's WhatsApp. I assume you reached out on me, Andrew. That's the first time we've talked on WhatsApp. But yeah, send me messages there. It's much easier than Facebook for me to reply. I see you reaching out to me sometimes and waiting for a response before I can circle back. The quickest way to cut that cycle
is go ahead and wrap up. We got time.
Okay, that's pretty much all we have to say. And just check the links that Herschel put in the chat, and please Google the term Frontierless Brotherhood. We're looking forward to the release of the Brotherhood script within 90 days.
All right.
Hafiz, this is Dr. Jones. I just wanted to let you know that I had done some work many years ago that was asked for to be presented at Harvard. having to do with everything that you discussed. And it's based on an antiquarian tome, encyclopedic, heavily cross-referenced information looking at the origin of languages, nations, and religions. And that's why so many countries and governments have prime ministers and those kinds of titles in their governments. I brought that work pretty much everywhere after Oxford and places that I was asked to take it beyond the review it had received at Johns Hopkins. And I believe that that project opened the door to the current work that I'm doing in the clinical epidemiology of pathological antisocial thinking among individuals and groups. That work has been combined with some of my efforts in therapeutic music. So I'm just letting you know now that you have a Board of Education in New York City version of that work where historical integrity judged is the project, and that the students in New York City were allowed to be exposed to the origin of ideas and information that impact government and impact human relations today. I'll be bringing that information to you through some of the things that Chairman and I and some of the other people who are on this call, the World Group, have already understood about the potential value that this may have related to the content that you've just brought to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. I would also encourage you through the Harvard community to package that information up and write a letter to the Aga Khan or one of his sons or children. Yep.
That's going to be part of our implementation strategy. All right.
Okay. So. Yeah, they're a Harvard family, Doc Jones, and my cousin Professor Shafiq Virani, if you want to look him up, he's also Harvard as well. Harvard, Oxford, and Dad, what university in Canada? University of Montreal. That's Nureen. What was Shafiq's Canadian university? Dad, you there? Okay, Professor Shafiq Virani. So
all
guys,
right.
check him out.
We'll follow that up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's McGill University.
McGill, that's right.
McGill. Okay. Let's put that in our WhatsApp and follow up on that conversation. Corinne.
Okay, that's all we have. Yep.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Good afternoon. It's a privilege to be here. Thanks, Hafiz, for introducing me to the organization, the Friends of African Union. I run a nonprofit organization established about 8 years ago called Global Inspired Volunteer Society. So it's a gift society. And the vision behind that was to cultivate leaders and also bridging the gap between cultural, age, social statuses to bring people together to serve humanity, to serve their community based on a common value that they share. So some of the things that we've been doing in Vancouver here in BC is providing support for community events where certain communities may be lacking some skill sets and resources, and that's where Gift Society comes in to provide. Could be from technology to also providing first aid, volunteers to registration, parking, security, whatever they need, and to go in and help them get over those obstacles. And then from there, we started to focus on the homeless, where we do events and collaborate with different corporations and communities to collaborate to feed the homeless. This is where I see the value sets of what's happening here with this group, and being part of that civil society, and I think that most organizations, including the Aga Khan Foundation, also, Herschel, you've mentioned that as well in that last meeting that I watched the video recording of, civil society, coalition of building, knowledge sharing, technology, leveraging technology, finance. Some of the key things that I found, we also launched Gift Society in Ethiopia, and this was during the time of when we had COVID. So there, when we launched there, the focus was different. because that region required more of the medical assistance. They had a lot of doctors graduating, but there was no infrastructure. There was no way that they could get jobs. They had done this, their education in the medical field and were driving taxis or doing other jobs at hotels. So the concept came to me where, being able to use their skills, their knowledge and expertise to help their own community. So Give Society's main mission and our tag mission is Give Local, Inspire Global. And so in that area, we started to focus on medicals, providing free medical, dental, optometry services, mental health services, free medicine, laboratory analysis. And we were able to do this again with the same values that everybody here is looking at, is coalition building, bringing partners together, the major hospitals, the pharmaceutical companies, and so on, and local doctors who wanted to gain experience and also give back to their community. And education plays a good role. So like we talked about the school system, what's happening there, integrating everything, which is great. Now I'll be happy to share a sort of a summary plan that we've done.
We're definitely going to bring you for what your experience. Let's bring it local to our model, and then feed it back into the network that you have. And again, let me be clear that 2 tracks, Black Folks Plan track and BIPOCA track, they run together. Okay.
Right.
But the things that BIPOCA can do that the Black Folks Plan can't do currently. Okay. There are things that the Black Folks Plan can only do in its community. Okay. But it learns from the BIPOCA Alliance. So the whole idea in the Black Folks Plan is to take the best of class of what you've experienced, bring it to Cincinnati, integrate it all together, put the wheelhouse together. So we have the storybook as put together by the technology. Again, what you heard with Ken Granderson say, he developed the technology, him and Dale, they own it. So it can be whiteboarded, okay, so that we can BIPOCA it as well as Black fax it. But the key is diversity, that although the incoming administration may be against DEI, they forgot it's DEIA, accessibility. And accessibility, that's who our public partner is right now. The Hamilton County Developmental Disability Services Agency, to serve in Hamilton County people with disabilities. 7,000 kids are disabled with their IEPs in the school system. I look forward to working with you and all. Okay. I appreciate it all for all of you, but it's time for the chairman to go get something to eat so he can take his medicine.
Sounds good. Thank you again, everybody. It was a pleasure.
And did you put you've got your information in the chat here?
Yes.
All right. And so I want to thank everybody for this session. Okay.
Happy New Year.
And I appreciate the time that you've given to this, and I appreciate it more, the work that we are now embarked on. With that, this Zoom is now